Whether rooted in genuine trash-talking or fueled by pure animosity, rivalries take the excitement of prize fighting up a notch by getting MMA fans hooked, selling thousands of tickets and millions of pay-per-views, and spicing things up to create the perfect buffet of violence. Here are the top 10 UFC rivalries that set the house on fire, starting with Dustin Poirier vs. Conor McGregor. The first clash between Poirier and McGregor traces back to UFC 178 in 2014, where McGregor got under the diamond's skin with ruthless trash talking.
It's a grudge match. I don't like this guy, and we're gonna go in there and see who's a better fighter,
And secured a first-round KO victory in their featherweight bout. The tables turned 7 years later at UFC 257, when Poirier avenged his defeat, claiming victory with the second-round KO in their rematch that paved the way for the trilogy at UFC 264. Where Poirier once again stood victorious as McGregor suffered a left tibia break while evading a punch from his rival late in the first round. Though it's a legit loss on his record, McGregor has persistently downplayed Poirier's victory by calling it a fluke. Will we see a fourth fight between the two? Now, Kamaru Usman vs. Colby Covington was nothing like Conor McGregor vs. Dustin Poirier. It did have bad blood, but it wasn't one-sided at any point in time. When Usman first battled Covington at UFC 245, the two went neck and neck, battling each other in one of the most entertaining welterweight title fights of all time, which Usman won by TKO in the 5th round. The Nigerian even broke his opponent's jaw. A couple of years later, Covington rebounded with a win under his belt and challenged Usman for the second time. Ahead of their fight, a few lines were crossed with Covington bringing up the legal troubles of Usman's dad, Muhammad Nasiru Usman, who was imprisoned in 2009 on charges of healthcare fraud. Despite Covington's verbal onslaught,
the only thing you broke is your daddy out of prison. Where's that jailbird at? Is he in the building?
Usman kept his cool and won by a comfortable decision to put a befitting end to his rivalry with the brash American. Speaking of outspoken Americans, Chael Sonnen brutalized Anderson Silva on the mic heading into their first fight, as well as the rematch. The Silva-Sonnen saga was a showdown between polar opposites, both inside and outside the octagon. Silva was a man of few words outside the cage, but a demon inside of it, whereas Sonnen was a relentless trash talker armed with top-notch wrestling skills. The first face-off between the two at UFC 117 in 2010 saw Sonnen dominating for nearly 5 rounds. He took Silva down in every round and controlled him, but just when the Brazilian seemed on the brink of a shocking defeat, he pulled off one of the greatest comebacks in MMA history, snatching a last-minute triangle choke. Fast forward to the rematch at UFC 148 in 2012. Sonnen once again kicked things off with the takedown, but Silva managed to return to his feet and employ some short-grabbing tactics to thwart further takedowns. With the fight staying on the feet, Silva eventually sealed the deal with the second-round TKO, following which the two buried the hatchet and are now best of friends. The same can't be said about Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier, who were the main characters of one of the most intense and downright venomous rivalries in MMA history. These two literally despise each other during their active fighting days, and even years after their epic clashes, they still don't like each other. The feud started backstage at a 2010 UFC event when Jones playfully jabbed at Cormier's wrestling skills, sparking an immediate and lasting tension. Matters escalated when they were set to battle for the light heavyweight title in 2014, before which a face-off after the UFC 178 press conference exploded into a chaotic brawl. Although an initial injury prevented their first showdown, they finally collided at UFC 182 in 2015, where Jones defended his light heavyweight title in a closely contested decision. A few months later, Jones was stripped of his title after a hit-and-run incident, and Cormier claimed the belt by beating Anthony Johnson. The two fought once again at UFC 214 in 2017, where Jones reclaimed his belt with the TKO victory. In a post-fight interview, Cormier emotionally defeated, initially denied a rivalry.
If you win both fights, there is no rivalry, so...
conceding he was beaten twice. However, after a failed drug test overturned Jones's victory, Cormier branded his opponent a habitual cheat.
Take a coffee break, mate.
And by coffee break, I mean bring me my coffee.
Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz is definitely up there with Cormier versus Jones. It all began in 2016 at UFC 196, when Diaz stepped in at the last minute to replace the then light heavyweight champion, Rafael dos Anjos, who was originally set to defend his belt against the Irishman, but had to withdraw due to injury. The fight that took place at welterweight witnessed Diaz shocking the world by submitting the seemingly invincible McGregor and handing him his first defeat in the UFC. This loss fueled McGregor's relentless pursuit of redemption, leading to a blockbuster rematch at UFC 202. The 5-round battle concluded with McGregor narrowly securing victory through a highly contested majority decision. Despite both fighters moving on to face different challenges, the allure of a trilogy fight continues to excite MMA fans. But not all trilogies are exciting. Take Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell for example. The rivalry between Ortiz and Liddell is a timeless example of how personal conflicts can ignite legendary battles in the UFC. Formerly friends and training partners, Ortiz and Liddell's relationship soared when both aimed for the same coveted prize, the UFC light heavyweight title. For a considerable time, Liddell played the role of Ortiz's right-hand man, but then he took control of his destiny and earned a title shot against his friend turned blood rival. The first battle between the two legends took place at UFC 47 in 2004, with Liddell securing a second-round knockout. The rematch took place at UFC 66 in 2006, where despite Ortiz's valiant efforts, Liddell showcased his striking superiority by securing a third-round TKO to retain his light heavyweight title. The animosity reached its climax in 2018 with the trilogy fight under Golden Boy Promotions, where Liddell returned from retirement to face Ortiz once more. Unfortunately, Ortiz had the last laugh as he won by a first-round knockout.
What's bugging his Yeah, they're trying to stop him.
Will Jorge Masvidal have the last laugh against Colby Covington? The beef between Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal is a tale of friendship turned sour. Back when Covington, a wrestling standout from the University of Oregon, ventured into MMA, he found himself training alongside Masvidal at the famed American Top Team gym in South Florida. Initially, their camaraderie was beneficial, but as Covington's outspoken persona clashed with gym dynamics, things soured. Noticing Covington's peculiar behavior, Masvidal began distancing himself from his bestie, and the situation reached its boiling point when ATT's founder, Dan Lambert, implemented a zero trash-talking policy to curb Covington's unfiltered verbal assaults on his teammates. The breaking point came when Covington allegedly refused to pay their longtime striking coach, leading to an irreparable rift. In 2020, Covington parted ways with ATT and joined MMA Masters, clashing with Masvidal at UFC 272, where he won by a comfortable decision. A few weeks after their fight, the hostilities spilled beyond the octagon, when Masvidal attacked Covington outside a Miami steakhouse in March 2022, and then faced legal consequences for it. Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya is one of the greatest combat sports rivalries of all time. Stemming from their time as kickboxers under the Glory banner, the first bout in their kickboxing days saw Pereira secure a unanimous decision win, sparking a disputed result as Adesanya claimed he f***ed Pereira up. Their second kickboxing meeting ended in a stunning fashion, with Pereira becoming the first to knock out Adesanya. The Brazilian then followed Adesanya in the UFC, where he bagged a title shot with just 3 wins. The two legends battled at UFC 281, where Poatan scored a come-from-behind victory to knock Adesanya out and win the middleweight title.
UFC undisputed middleweight.
Adesanya sought redemption just 5 months later at UFC 287, delivering a second-round knockout and putting an end to their rivalry once and for all. Vanderlei Silva versus Quentin Rampage Jackson isn't very far behind. The rivalry between Vanderlei Silva and Quentin Rampage Jackson unfolded across 3 brutal fights, spanning 2 different organizations. The first chapter of their feud took place in Pride, where Silva emerged victorious twice, delivering violent, highlight reel finishes in both encounters. Their first clash at Pride Final Conflict 2003 witnessed Silva unleashing a ruthless barrage of knees from the Muay Thai clinch, ultimately finishing Jackson with a devastating knee that sent him crashing through the ropes. The violence continued in their second bout at Pride 28 in 2004, where Silva once again secured victory, this time with a relentless set of fire and fury. The two battled for the third time at UFC 92, where Jackson finally exacted his revenge, knocking out Silva in the first round with a vicious left hook. Now so far, you've witnessed 9 of the best UFC rivalries, but the Conor McGregor vs. Khabib Nurmagomedov feud beats them all.
Cocky and brash and everything else, but this is just over the top. Makes me feel like something's wrong. You know, he was offended yesterday that I said that, but I agree with you. Yes, this is a guy who's acting like things aren't right.
No rivalry cuts deeper than the personal animosity between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor. Once good friends, their relationship soured when McGregor was slated to face Eddie Alvarez for the lightweight title, a shot that Nurmagomedov believed rightfully belonged to him. Things took a dark turn when it was revealed that the UFC had used Nurmagomedov as leverage against McGregor during contract negotiations. Feeling manipulated, Nurmagomedov began publicly taunting McGregor, dubbing him a chicken. The conflict reached its boiling point when Artem Lobov, a close associate of McGregor, made disparaging remarks about Nurmagomedov in an interview, leading to a hotel confrontation where the Dagestani, accompanied by a group, filmed himself slapping Lobov. The video further incensed McGregor, who quickly boarded his private jet with his entourage and flew to New York. There he attacked a bus carrying Nurmagomedov and other fighters, resulting in one of the ugliest incidents in UFC history. Following the attack, Nurmagomedov challenged McGregor to send a location for a face-to-face meeting, which took place at UFC 229. The pre-fight press conference was dark and ugly, with McGregor hurling personal and religious insults at Khabib. The bout itself was tense, with Khabib displaying his dominance, but smashing the Irishman with ground and pound, before submitting him in round 4. But even after finishing McGregor, Khabib wasn't done for the night as he climbed out of the cage and attacked Dylan Dennis, one of McGregor's cornermen. So, these were the top 10 biggest UFC rivalries of all time. Which one was the absolute worst? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on those notifications. Remember to keep your guard up, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.